So I think we can see that the reason for this is just simply to fulfill a requirement before they go to Superior Court,
Well,
because they're not here.
well, that, or they are taking one last stab.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And they didn't want to pay Chris Myers to be here.
that may be it,
Yeah.
or maybe Chris is stuck in traffic or whatever. Are we now broadcasting, Hank?
Yeah.
Okay. It's 7:03 on Wednesday, June 17th. I'll call this meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment in Jackson to order. We have 4 members present, 3 permanent members and 1 alternate. So we have a quorum of 4 people voting. We have one item on the agenda, which is to consider a motion for a rehearing in the matter of David and Christina Caldwell for 200 Tin Mine Road. We do have the memo in front of us, filed by the Caldwell's attorney, Chris Meyer. And I'm going to briefly go through it and make some comments. As I go through it, I welcome others to add comments. But looking at the motion, on page 2, paragraph 1, in the substantial justice argument, the argument's made that the loss to the property owner, if they had to remove the porch and corresponding roof, would be significant, versus no harm to the public. And I think here, though I believe this is, I think it's inappropriate to count this porch, the removal of the porch, because it was illegally constructed to begin with. So by counting that cost, you're bootstrapping the illegal construction. I think the appropriate comparison would be the cost of the proposed porch as built from scratch versus some other solution. Second, the paragraph 2 talks about lead construction and the orientation of the house. Whether or not there is a porch there or not, I think makes no difference, and we also dealt with that during our discussion. In paragraph 4, the statement's made that the board actually agreed at one of the meetings that the home looks better with the porch rather than without. I don't believe the board made that determination. Certainly some individuals said they liked it with the porch. Other individuals have said they liked it without the porch. So I don't think we've actually come to a conclusion on that, if it were even relevant. I don't believe it's relevant. In the general paragraph, the argument's made that the zoning board proceeded with different members at various hearings, and the applicant was not given the option to proceed with the same members. And some members did not hear all the evidence that was presented. This was also an error according to the memo. I don't believe, as a matter of law, the applicant has the ability to request the same members. In any case, it would have not been possible since one member had resigned halfway through, and we have a new member that was appointed by the board, by the selectmen, who joined the board. The new members did have the opportunity to review the minutes and video of the meetings. In paragraph 7, the argument's made that the zoning board indicated that new member was provided information and an explanation of the application outside of a notice meeting of the zoning board. That, in fact, did not occur. There was a meeting with our attorney that did not have to be noticed. So I don't think paragraph 7 is relevant. I'll again offer time for anyone to make any comments as we go through this. There is quite a bit of information in the memo about hardship, all, I think, reiterating common arguments that were made by the applicant at the various meetings, and there doesn't appear to be anything new there. On the disability argument, the argument's made that that the board is misinterpreting the law and let's see, what does this say here? In paragraph 12, he's arguing that reasonable accommodation as used in the statute mean the board must find that reasonable accommodations are necessary to allow the person to use the premises, not that the variance is absolutely necessary to provide such accommodations. I'm not sure we're exactly doing that. I believe what we're doing is recognizing there is a physical disability, but also recognizing there are ways to provide a ramp built in the same manner that provide adequate access, the same level of access that they would as they would have with the illegally constructed porch that they have right now.
They can. We believe they can provide access without violating the setback.
Yep.
So that means that the accommodation of waiving the provisions of the zoning ordinance are not necessary. The accommodation is not necessary.
And I guess I'd also reiterate, as mentioned on page 2, paragraph 8 of the decision, that there were four separate site visits during this period by the board, 2 of which are trained as architects, who looked at the feasibility of building a ramp where we think it can be built. I remember I want to go back and reiterate during discussion on page 3 of the motion, paragraph 5, that the board first voted on March 25th, that the applicant had met the substantial justice criteria, and then voted on April 15th that they had not, and this is claimed to be an error. I'll make 3 comments. First, between 3:25 and 4:15, there was additional deliberation, both as a result of site visits as well as a result of additional information filed by the applicant at the 3:25 meeting, namely the redesigned ramp. That also between 3:25 and 4:15, at the 4:15 meeting, there were different people who attending that meeting. Clearly, excuse me. Attending that meeting with different views, as well as having an opportunity to deliberate further. And finally, at the 4:15 meeting, at least for some of us, the substantial justice determination was more focused on the cost of or the loss to the individual from not having a ramp in the position they wanted to have it, versus the other ways of providing the ramp. And we felt that there was no loss at all to the individual in having the ramp at the location that complies with the zoning ordinance. And this was also discussed in our opinion. So with that, would anybody else have any comments or observations to make for the record?
Yeah, basically, I think that the the memo submitted by the client's attorney really doesn't present much of anything new. It's a rehash of what we already decided. I don't think there's much of anything that's new here, except some points of law that he tried to make, which our attorney and we talked about in a separate meeting. So yeah, exactly. I don't see anything new here that would cause me to change my mind in a different decision, in a rehearing.
Well then, I'd entertain a motion that the motion for rehearing introduces no new evidence or reasons for us to believe that we were in error in denying the variance as a matter of law.
I would make that motion.
Second?
All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
It carries 4-0. So there we go. Next, well, we have no next. That's the end of the agenda. We may have another meeting because there is a discussion of another variance application. I don't know if we'll make it all the way to a variance application. We will need to have a meeting sometime soon to approve the minutes. So look for that in a month or so. And with that, is there any other business to discuss? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? We're adjourned. Hank, you can turn it off now.
Wow. All righty.